Good morning, and good morning again. Happy Saturday to you. Listen, we're just delighted to come before you one more Saturday and give God praise that He allowed us to wake up into a brand new day. Absolutely. And I want to thank you for joining in. Want to welcome those who are joining us by way of Facebook Live this morning. We certainly want to say welcome to you. We also want to welcome those of you who may be joining by way of YouTube. Can you imagine a year and a half later, we have a strong presence on both Facebook Live and YouTube for a podcast? We didn't even think that was possible over a year and a half ago, but it is a powerful testament that if you can only perceive it, you can receive it. Oh my goodness, that's a wonderful way to start off on a Saturday morning. Want to say to you that we're talking about staying in the race. And maybe you have someone today that's decided to possibly get on the sideline and life has overcome them and they've decided that this is just too much for them. I want you to do me a favor and send them a share button, and I'm going to show you how you can get them to tune in with us as well. All they have to do is, if they have Facebook, is go to their Facebook and type in Dr. K.O. Williams Space Ministry. Or if they have YouTube and don't have a Facebook presence, they can just simply go to their phone and to their YouTube and type in Dr. K.O. Williams Space Ministry. You see also, they can also dial in via phone. And also on the bottom left is a link that puts you directly in touch with us. Maybe there is a subject that you want some professional coaching around. This is a life's issues coaching podcast. And so we're always delighted to bring you skills, tools, professional development around life's issues. 60 minutes. I promise you, we're very considerate of your time on a Saturday morning. 60 minutes starting at 9 a.m. And I promise you, we'll be very good stewards of your time, but we'll also address some of life's issues. We'll talk about straight, honest, transparent conversation. This is not for minors. We have adult conversation, but the beauty I try to pride myself in is making sure that we offer you some practical tools. And boy, do we have some tools for you today to put in your toolbox. Anyone can participate. And so I want to do some quick housekeeping. If you're with us today, would you just send me a good morning, hello, um, uh, thumbs up, anything to let me know you're with us, and we'll give you a shout out as we go throughout the day's broadcast. So let's get started. We have been embarking on a new um, um, challenge and a topic around staying in the race. That's it. All throughout the good book, there are scriptures that help us to be admonished to stay in the race. We're going to cover one or two today, but in the meantime, I just want to have a quick conversation around what it looks like to stay in the race. All of us, if you're living and breathing, you're in this thing called the race of life. Yeah, maybe you're not in a track and field event, but my brothers and my sisters, I want to help you real good on a Saturday morning that life is styled as a race. And the more you know about how to run this race, the more you increase your chances of finishing the race. Oh, I'm trying to talk to somebody on a Saturday morning to let you understand that life is about a race and you have to stay in the race. That's the piece we want to focus on today. Just stay in the race. If I could just end the broadcast right there, that would be a good place to admonish somebody on a Saturday morning to stay in the race. Yes, that's what I want to tell you this morning. I want to say good morning to Sister Ethel, all the way in Virginia, a faithful follower of the Real Talk broadcast. And we're just thankful for you as well. My mentor and elementary school teacher, Mr. Flanagan, always a delight for you to slide in the pews with us. Listen, I want to talk to everybody today about a topic that is guaranteed to be on everybody's road. Stay in the race. That life is styled as a race. And the more you know how to run this race, the higher your chances of finishing the race. And so that's what we want to look at today. I have some amazing tools to put in your toolbox to help you stay in the race. And so let's just get started for a little bit today. When we think about staying in the race, there are so many ways to look at this staying in the race. I want to start today by giving you a scriptural background to ground our conversation today. Listen to what this text says. It says, wherefore, and by the way, this is in Hebrews 12, verses 1 and 2. I'm going to actually try to put that in the chat for us this morning. It says, wherefore, seeing we also are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and sin which doth so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and the finisher of our faith. My friends, there it is right there. I want to share with you that life really is about a race. And the more you understand that, I want to tell you something, the higher your chances of survival are. I have that in the chat for your consideration today. Stay in the race. That life, Paul, so many biblical patriots have advised us that life is really a race. And when you consider that if it is a race, better for us to figure out how to stay in the race. Now, let's talk for a moment. I just happen to have a little bit of experience in track and field. And so I want to speak from that premise on today. When I think about the fact that life is a race, yes, let me just tell you, if you catch nothing else, here's a major point of consideration. A race has a starting point and a finishing point. Oh my gosh, listen, I'm already happy on a Saturday morning because when you understand that you got in the race, not to just quit, not to give up, not to run out of gas, but to finish the race. Who starts a race with the mindset, I'm not going to finish? No, most people, when they sign up, usually say, I'm in it for the long haul. And I want to just ask somebody today, this is like a pit stop for some, that you just need to be reminded that you're in this race, and a race has a starting point. I can remember, for example, the 100-yard dash. All of the runners are lined up equally on the starting point. There's a white line that goes from one end of that track all the way to the other end. And each person has a lane that they're assigned to. And once you hear this gunshot in the air, that's the point that you start the race. But if you look far enough down the track, you will see another white line. Lord have mercy. And that white line is called the finishing point. And I want to talk to somebody today that life is not about starting, but it's about finishing the race that you started. Listen, what happens between those 2 points to a great degree determines how we end the race. So you have a starting point and a finishing point. But I want to suggest to somebody today, to a great degree, what happens between the starting point and the finishing point determines how you end the race. Am I talking good to anybody on a Saturday morning? Just stay in the race. That's what I want to talk to you about today. Stay in the race. I don't care who it is that I'm speaking to today, and I don't care what it is that you're going to. I don't even have to know the circumstances to which you're in this race. All I want to tell you is if you're going to get the prize, you must stay in the race. There it is right there. This is just a moment of meditation for someone that life is styled as a race. And the more you stay in the race, the closer you get to the finishing line. Listen, a wise man said that it is not so much how we start the race or what happens during the race, but it's how we finish the race that is what really matters. Can I just say that one more time for somebody's consideration? There was a wise man that said it's not so much how we start the race or what happens during the race, but it is how we finish the race. That is what really matters, because there are so many, think about it, in your lifetime who started, and they started well. I've seen people, we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but I've seen people start out at the starting point, and I mean just give it all they got right out the gate. The problem is they don't realize that there's a finish line. And if you start and not pace yourself, you may run out of energy before you finish the finishing line. That's a good point for someone. To run well is to be disciplined well. You got to know, excuse me, how much energy to apply so that you don't run out of energy, but you also have to run with the finish line in mind. Because I'm convinced that some, they've lost focus on the finish line, and they've gotten distracted with some of the things that happen in life. We're going to talk about those things, and they're called hurdles. And in this broadcast today, I want to tell you that there are intentional hurdles, and then there are unintentional hurdles. For I know in the track and field event, there's an event called the hurdles, where a person runs and they have to jump over so many hurdles to finish the line and to finish the race. My friend, that's a beautiful image in this thing called life. So that the runner knows that even though they're fast, they have to save so much energy in reserve to deal with the hurdles. Oh my gosh, I'm telling you, I feel good already on a Saturday morning, because that if you live in this life, there are going to be hurdles. There are going to be hurdles that are intentional. And these hurdles help build your strength and endurance, and you have to practice to overcome the hurdles. That's one image. But I also want to tell you, don't be deceived, because sometimes as you run and you run well, there may be a hurdle in the race. I'm thinking about the man who's running the race, and all of a sudden, one of the spikes in his shoes come out. Now, the spikes are designed to give you traction in the hurdle race as well as the sprint. But if, for example, what happens when the shoes that you're wearing have a hiccup? Oh my gosh, who is it that I'm talking to today that you were doing well, and then all of a sudden the shoe has a hiccup? Maybe your shoe is not a physical shoe, but maybe it's a doctor's visit and you get this unexpected diagnosis. Am I talking to anyone today? I want you to understand that life has some expected hurdles. You can see those coming up. You know that you want to purchase something. You can look at your bank account and you can see that the two don't mesh. And so now that's a hurdle. You have to work a little bit harder, longer to overcome that financial hurdle. Well, there are also unexpected hurdles. And those, my friend, are the ones you have to be well disciplined for, that you can run and run well. So run with patience and endurance, my friends, the race that is set before you, and you will finish well. I want to talk to somebody today who's in the race of life. And all I wanted to do today is to come by and give you a little pep talk along the way. Is it anybody today that can say along with me that life is a race, and you got to stay in it and stay in it well until you're able to finish the finish line. Now let's talk a little bit more about these hurdles in life. Yes, because we're all in this race. And the truth of the matter is that when you get in the race, you have to learn to stay in it. Well, I need to tell you that there are things that we need to be considered when we talk about staying in the race. Now, let's go back to this for a second. Stay in the race. It talks about laying aside everything that hinders a person. Well, I just wanted to pause for a moment to talk about what kind of things that could hinder you from running well. Well, first of all, you need to know that if you're going to be in this race, you ready for this? It's a marathon and not a sprint. Oh my goodness, Williams, what does that mean? Well, it means that it's not won in a quick sprint. That's okay for the 100-yard dash or something like that, or 220 sprint. But if you're going to be in life's race, it is a marathon, which means it requires daily discipline and perseverance. In other words, every day you get up, you have to condition yourself to keep running. Now, you may say, I know that I'm not in the physical shape to run a marathon, but I want to help you. You can be in spiritual shape to run a marathon, because it takes, first and foremost, laying aside, throwing off, getting rid of. Ooh, I feel good on a Saturday morning because so many people try to run the race of life and they have weights that are holding them back. They have things that are pulling them down. And I want to suggest to you today that if you're in this life, if you're breathing, if you're existing, you're in the race of life. But for the Christian, this race of life, you have to stay in shape and stay in the race. For anyone that's listening today, the relevant question of today is, what is it that's weighing you down? Oh, we're going to unpack that here in just a few moments. But I wanted to not go too fast and ask you today, what is it that's weighing you down? Paul admonishes us, let's throw off everything that hinders. Ooh, my goodness. Just let that ruminate with us for a moment. The fact that life has some weights. Yes, and I don't know who I'm speaking to today, but I want to suggest to you that the better you understand how to run the race, the more you increase your success rate to finish the race. Can I say that just one more time? That it doesn't matter if you're young or old, um, black or white, rich or poor. If you're breathing, you're in the race of life. And not only are you in the race, there are those who are in the race and now have weights. Seemingly, you've seen people, they come in to the job, got all this energy. I'm thinking about some on my job right now. Come in with all this energy, gonna solve all the job's problems. And then just in a few days, they find out that there's some weights here that you got to avoid. There's some things that you must not allow to hitch onto you. Oh, who am I speaking to today? The fact that if you're going to finish the race, there are certain things that you must cut loose. There are certain things that you cannot allow to be connected to you. Paul calls them lay aside every weight. Now, I want to tell you, sir, and I want to tell you, ma'am, I've seen it in the church the same way. People come in, you extend the right hand of fellowship to them. Oh, they just want to save the world. And then you circle back around after a few months, and then the trials of life start rolling in. Oh, am I talking to anybody today? And you've seen people like this, that they start out so well with such good intentions, let me just say. But they don't realize this is not a sprint, but this is a marathon that you have to run with patience. That every day you get up, if you picked up some weights yesterday, Paul say, lay them aside when you get up the next morning. Because the truth is, you cannot run well with the weights of this world. So Paul says, let us lay aside every weight. And I want to talk to somebody today about those weights. Now, this refers to a runner removing everything that would hinder their ability to run effectively. In the natural, maybe your clothes are too heavy. You might need lighter clothing. Maybe I've seen this where a runner's shoes are too heavy and they really needed lighter, lightweight shoes. Or maybe they needed a headband because part of their weight was they perspired and sweated too much. But But you have to lay aside anything that will affect or hinder your ability to run effectively. Well, somebody say, Williams, I'm not into that athletics. And so great. I want to speak to you about what Paul says, a spiritual race. He first acknowledges that there are physical races. What a great analogy, because there are those who can appreciate the physical imagery of being in a race. But then there are those who say, I don't have any appreciation for track and field. Paul says, you're also in a race, and it's called the Christian life. The Christian life is a race. So let's look at the spiritual arena. This refers to anything that hinders our walk with God. Ooh, Williams, listen, don't go no further. Just for a moment, can I tell you there are so many things that can hinder our walk with God? It's the things that slow you down that must go. Think about it for a moment. What are some things that will hinder your walk with God? In short, it's anything that does not build you up and make you stronger in the Lord Jesus Christ. So, anybody who's around somebody who is always negative, Paul says, lay aside those negative things. And let me help you, negative people, if they don't change their ways. Paul says, listen, hatred, listen, you cannot run well if you got hatred for someone, for it goes against the great commandment that Jesus says, love thy neighbor as thyself, which is the second only to loving God. Let me tell you something. There are so many things that will hinder your ability with your walk with God. I want to talk to somebody. So if it doesn't build you up, it's a hindrance and should be removed from your life. Now, so many people say, oh, I've got this long relationship and all of a sudden now this relationship is creating a negative draw. It's got a negative pull to it. And my friends, I want to suggest to you today, I want you to just hear me, allow me to slow the pace down and say to you that your ultimate goal is to finish the race. And that person, that place, or that thing is not more important than you finishing the race. And so whatever it is, can I just tell you for a moment, I know people, their hindrance is a place. Yeah, maybe it's their job. People worship their job. I know people like this. They just, everything about them is their job. You talk to them, it's their job. You see them, it's their job. They've made an empire out of their job, only to discover that there's a life race that when you close your eyes, that job cannot help you. My friends, I want to ask you today, maybe it's a thing, it's a person, it's a family member that you just you made a god out of them. And I know people like this. I'm thinking about a lady right now. Every time you talk to her, it's her children. Her children have become her god, and nobody's children are as accomplished as hers, and nobody's children can do like her children. Listen, no one's ever made it successful in life like her children. Even though you talk with her, she has built it such that her children is her hindrance. Oh my gosh, I don't know who I'm speaking to today. A person, place, or even a thing. And then obviously, you know, people who make money their hindrance. Money is good, and money answers all things. But I want to tell you something that um, they they bury millionaires, billionaires, just like they bury homeless people. And so we know that money, um, although it's good to have, it can be a hindrance for us, because the reality is we should put nothing before us that will cause us to lose our space in relationship with our walk with God. Yes. And so Paul says, lay aside. I don't know who I'm speaking to today, but I want to put my weight on it today and tell you, God is interested in you finishing the race. But I want to tell you, you have to make sure that you have every day a check-in on what are my hindrances? What are those things? What are those weights that will cause me to lose fellowship with God? Now, I have to move forward because I got a little bit further to go today. But I want to tell you uh, uh, one more time, if it doesn't build you up in the Lord, it is a hindrance and should be removed. Let us throw off everything that hinders us and let us run this race with perseverance and patience, the race that is set before us. Well, the second thing is it says, let us throw off the sins that so easily entangle. This sin that trips you up, what is it? Yeah, quick attitude or temperance you need to work on. Just being hateful or being selfish. These things are things that will hinder us. There may be many sins that could be mentioned here. It doesn't matter what it is, because we all have our shortcomings. You have yours, I have mine, and we have ours collectively. But what we all must agree, but in this verse, is that particular sin that trips you up as an individual. You know what it is. Oh, each one of us has our own personal testimony that I told someone this. Everybody has their own shortcomings. This one man I know, his shortcoming is drugs. He's a good man, but he got hooked up into some bad company early on in his life, and he got introduced to drugs early. And he's a good man. He works. He's in church. But let me tell you something. This brother struggles with drugs all the time. And sometimes he says to me, man, you don't know what it means. And I will say to him, no, I don't. I've never done drugs, never had any desire to do drugs. And so for me to put drugs in my presence doesn't give me a temptation at all. But I have my own challenges. And I would always come back to him and say this: each one of us has our own weights that we must get rid of. You have yours, brother, but don't be so dismayed. I have mine. And guess what? The next person has theirs as well. I agree with you, Sister Ethel, that in the end, we must look in the mirror. Michael Jackson said it best: it's the man in the mirror. Um, yes, because there are weights that get each one of us. And then I always say this: if your adversary or your enemies, if they want to try to slow you down, do you think they're going to bring you something that you're not attracted to or you're not tempted by? No, 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 my friend. This is why I say you have to lay aside every weight that easily sets you off the race. Now, as I just articulated, so someone comes to me and offer me drugs, that's not a temptation to me at all. This stage of my life, if I ain't tried it yet, I can assure you I have no desire for it. And so I'm just saying, each one of us has our own sins to deal with. And Paul says, every day you get up, you should ask yourself, what are those things that will cause me to run this race and not run it well? Paul says, those things that will cause me to get entangled, those things that would cause me to even stop the race. You know where you are the weakest, and I know where I am the weakest. This is a personal race, and there are sins that do not tempt you at all, but there are others that are a constant struggle to you. This is what the writer is referring to here. He says, whatever that sin is, whatever that struggle is, whatever that temptation is, it must be avoided at all costs. Can I say it again? The writer is referring here when he says, lay aside every sin. He is saying, whatever that temptation is, whatever that challenge is, whatever that distraction is, it must be avoided at all costs, or it will trip you up or get you so entangled and prevent you from running a strong race. I want you to see the imagery that no, you might not be a physical runner, but oh, my friend, you're running a race, and it's called the Christian race. And you want to run it, and you want to run it well, but you also want to watch out for these entrapments, these entanglements. And can I tell you something? Another weight is jealous people. Yes, they see you really running. Looks like you've got your stride. Looks like you're going to finish and finish well. And instead of encouraging you, they try to set traps, try to set entanglements. I want to talk with someone today. You have to do a daily check-in. That's exactly right. Look around you and assess those people, those places, and those things, and ask yourself, is any of this causing me to be entangled, to be distracted, to be tempted? And if the answer is yes, quickly, you must avoid it at all costs. Therefore, do not let sin reign in your mortal body so that you obey its evil desires. Did you see? That's Romans 6:12, by the way. Do not let sin reign. In other words, we all have our challenges, but don't let it take root in your mortal bodies so that you obey its evil desires. I want to tell you, first of all, you got to first let your mind be fixed that this is a marathon and not a sprint. And when you do that, you have to lay aside every weight. And then you have to also assess any hindrances and get rid of them. And then thirdly, you got to run with perseverance. This refers to a runner settling in and running for the long haul. I tell you right now, I feel good on a Saturday because I've made my mind up that I'm going to run, and I'm going to run well. I want to just say to someone, if you're tuning in or you may tune in later, that make up your mind that I'm in this for the long haul. You got in it. You got in it for a good reason. You had good intentions when you got in. You had good intentions when you started. And I want to tell you something. You also have to have good intentions to finish the race. Oh, yes, my friend. You must stay in the race. And you got to run it like a marathon. Yeah, that's not some quick hit it and quit it. No, my friend. Every day you get up, you got to run with patience. Settle in. That's right. And run for the long haul. Perseverance is an active word. It means disciplined endurance. Did you catch that? that you say, yes, life has some hurdles. Mm-hmm. But come what may, from day to day, I got a made up mind to stay in the race. I want to talk to someone today to encourage you that yes, life has hurdles. Yes, life has distractions. Yes, life has temptations. But I want to tell you something. Make up in your mind that you in it for the long haul, that you have discipline, endurance. Notice the phrase, the race marked out for us. This challenges us to remember some things. We each have our own race to run. My friend, your race is not like mine, and I'm so glad because I'm not physically fit like you are, and your race is not like mine. So we each have our own race to run. You can't run in my lane, and I can't run in yours. And so what we have to do is when you're in the race is stay focused on the finish line. Don't go over there trying to tell somebody else how to run their race. What you have to do is to run your own race and run it well. Then number two, we're not in a competition. Ooh, who am I talking to on today? That the only thing that matters is that we finish the race. Who am I talking to today? Listen, you're not in no competition with me, and I'm not in a competition with you. We're on the same team, for crying out loud. I'm not trying to outrun you. I'm running for Jesus, the race that he has marked out for me to do the best of my God-given ability. And I want to say to you the same thing, that you have been given a race by God. You and I are on the same team. We're not in competition with one another. And the reality is, learn how to build each other up and not be so self-centered. Oh, yes. I want to say it and say it again. It's lonely at the top. But isn't it wonderful when you can finish as a team? Um, there's another race called a 440 relay, and each member has a part to play. And that's how I feel like God has called us as believers, that every person has their own leg to run, and you should run it and run it well. Don't allow any distractions to get in your way. Don't allow the hurdles of life to get in your way. I want to tell you today, stay in the race. I'm putting my weight on it. Listen, you got in it. You got in it for the right reason. And even if you ran, looks like the energy is low, pace yourself until you can pick the pace back up. Because I promise you, the race is not given to the swift. I feel just like preaching on a Saturday morning. But listen, the race is not given to the swift nor to the strong, but it is to him that endures unto the end. I want to try to tell you, my time's just about out for today, but I want to tell you one more time, stay in the race, because there's a prize that is set aside just for you. There's a crown that I can't wear, and there's one that you can't wear. Mine was designed for me, and let me help you real good. Yours was designed for you. You have to stay in the race. The lesson is clear, that we all go through sunshine times. We all go through dark times. And I thank you for the reminder, Mr. Flanagan. There's a session that we did called Navigating Through Life Storms. You would be well served to go back and review that session as well, because ultimately life has some ups and downs. They have hurdles that you can see ahead of you. But then there's also some hurdles that you cannot see. Now, my last point for today is, well, what are some ways, Williams, that we can stay in the race? Well, I want to give you a couple of quick ones, and we'll come back. We're still dealing and drilling on this thing called stay in the race, because so many good people have started out, but somehow or another the hurdles have caused them to either slow down or either just stop running altogether. Now, life is full of ups and downs. Can I get somebody to help me? One day you may feel like you have it all figured out, like you got it going on. And then in a moment's notice, am I talking good to anybody today? You've been thrown a curveball. Listen, and you feel like all of a sudden the world has come to a stop. But I want to suggest to you, it's nothing but a hurdle. And my friend, if you can only figure out how to overcome the hurdles, what a great day it is. I just wanted to talk about for the next couple of minutes on ways to overcome the hurdles. I want to also tell you that you're not alone in these feelings. Everyone has to face their own set of hurdles. But learning how to overcome the hurdles will help you stay in the race, and it'll also help you to remain calm under pressure. You've seen those people get that bad news, and it's as if they heard it, but they're not moved by it. Everyone has their own preferences on how to face the challenges in life. But however, there are a few good tips, and this is my tools to put in your toolbox when you're confronted with the hurdles of life. I want to tell you that there are so many ways to get through the tough times. Here's just a few, and we'll keep drilling down on these. Number one, make a plan. While you don't know what's going to happen in the future, you can always plan ahead. Look at the patterns in your life and see what challenges you've struggled with. Assess the optimal outcomes and make a plan for how you can achieve them. Listen, if you work somewhere and can anticipate the types of challenges you may face, then you can plan ahead. The same is true for students in school. If there's a challenge in time management, listen, then you can learn and plan for calendar management, for example. Learn to have a plan. What I try to tell people, and I share this with my children and family and friends, is called a contingency plan. That you'd be surprised at the number of people who are going along, life is great, and then all of a sudden there's this big hiccup in the so-called plan. And I say that when the plan is disrupted, have a plan B already. It's a lot easier to implement a plan if you've already got it laid out. The challenge in the hurdles is sometimes we don't have a plan, and now we're having to deal with the hurdle plus trying to figure out a plan. Number one, make a plan. Sit down, try to figure out some what ifs. Yes, I can't go into all that right now, but all I want to tell you, because I'm trying to get somewhere, make a plan. Number two, know you're not alone. Hurdles come and hurdles go. Every person in this world has their low points. Don't let folks fool you. Don't even let them try to play on your intelligence. We have human minds, and every now and then these minds have low points. Some may handle or even hide it better than others. Did you hear what I said? Because sometimes it's nothing but a mask, because when they get home, they fall apart. Okay, but the truth is, whatever you're going through, there are others who have been through it too. You're not alone. And they say persons who are dealing with suicide and depression usually slip into that state because they feel like they're in it by themselves and that no one knows exactly like they do what they're going through. I want to tell you today, my time is about out, but hear me clearly when I say all of us have hurdles. It's just how we handle the hurdles that makes the difference. Try to reach out to your community, network, support groups. Speak your feelings and express your concerns in all of the settings of life. Listen, I'm trying to work my way through. I got just another minute, Mr. Flanagan, you read my mind. Actually speaking, you actually need a plan C if you're going to run and run well. Life is so unpredictable that there are things that you just did not anticipate. And guess what? Better you to have a plan than to be sitting now dealing with the hurdle, plus trying to figure out what the plan is. And so I want to tell somebody today, number one, have a plan. Number two, know you're not alone. And then number three, don't be afraid to ask for help. You're not alone, so you can find help. There are so many support groups. And what I shared with some recently was what you're dealing with. You're not the only one dealing with it. You may be the first to openly speak about it. So create a support group. Learn to figure out how to turn that negative energy into something positive. There's no need to feel ashamed for asking for help. Whether you choose to rely on a loved one, listen, I met a stranger. I was having a bad day. And the man told me, I was going to a very uncomfortable meeting I was not looking forward to. I was already told the outcome was not going to be too favorable, but I was going anyway. And then while I was on my way there, the car broke down. And I had to call, try to figure out how to get myself to the meeting. Well, I want to tell you, ultimately, I had another friend, and my AAA had expired. I'm talking about it was just a bad day, and I want to tell you something that I called another friend, and they used their AAA, and of all people, there was a gentleman I did not know him from Adam, and he said to me these words. That's been probably 20 years ago. And as a pastor, I try to share this. Matter of fact, I just shared it with someone last week who was going through a difficult time. I got in the truck. It was clear that I was distraught and downtrodden. And the man says, "You look like you're having a bad day." And I didn't go into all the details. I told him I was on my way to a very uncomfortable meeting. And I was already told the outcome would not be in my favor. And now, as you can see, my car broke down. And then when I go to call AAA, they told me that my AAA had expired. And I'm on the side of the road trying to get to this meeting. And the man said these words to me. He told me about a man that had a goat outside. And I don't know how much time I have. I got to check this real fast. And the man says to me, there was a man with a goat, and him and his wife used to argue all the time. He was having bad marital problems. So the man says, "I tell you what, take the goat and put it in the house and just chain it to the door. Like when you go in and out, you got to go by this goat." Well, the house started smelling bad and off and everything. And the man came back the next week and he said, "How are things going with you and your wife?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "But I'm telling you right now, that goat is got the house smelled up. It's awful in there." He said, "Well, I tell you what to do. Take the goat and take the chain and chain him to the refrigerator." He said, "What?" He said, "Yeah." He chains the goat to the refrigerator, and now it's smelly, and then now they can't even get to the refrigerator. So every time they go to get something to eat, there's this nasty smelling goat in front of the refrigerator. It's just awful, he says. He goes back the next week to the counselor. He says, "How's things going with you and your wife?" He said, "Man, listen, we losing weight and the house stinks." He's telling you, said, because we can't even get to the refrigerator. It's awful in there. So the man says, "I tell you what to do. Take the goat, take him back outside, and chain him to the tree." Man came back the next week. He said, "How's things?" He said, "Man, listen, That was the best thing that ever happened to us. We took that goat, took him back out there, cleaned the house up. Boy, we were so glad to get our house back. And the man said to him, the only thing changed was you chained that goat back out to the tree. It could be worse, he said. You could have a goat inside the house. And so I shared that with someone just this week, that no matter what you're going through, could have a goat in the house on top of everything else you're going through. And so I hope you're blessed by that. Take time to realize that it could be worse. Hurdles come and hurdles go. But the reality is that it could be worse than what you're going through. That's all the time I have for you today. Listen, we're going to keep plowing through this thing called the race of life. I want you to understand that life is all about how you finish, not how you start. Can I pray with you for a moment as we bring our session to a close? Father, thank you for time well spent today in this broadcast, realizing that life is a race, and how we finish this race determines our outcome for our reward. I pray that you would even encourage every person on this broadcast, those who will review it later, to be inspired to stay in the race. Don't give up. Don't give in, because if you finish, there is a crown of life laid up for us. It is in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Listen, my friends, that's all the time we have for you today. I want to thank you for hanging out with us today. And remember, stay in the race, because it could be worse. Until next time, the Lord bless you. The Lord keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you. May God be gracious unto you, and may he give you peace until we meet again. God bless you.